This is the third video of my Creepoxel, narrating creepypastas while making voxel art based on the stories. Again, as these are creepypastas, they may mention not safe for work things. On to the first one. A music box. The attic was extremely dusty and smelled of some form of mould. But at the very least it had a window at the end which illuminated the area enough to see. Unfortunately, all Cam saw was boxes upon boxes, undoubtedly full of the most useless plethora of ancient items in existence. Thankful that she hadn't inherited her mother's pack-rat ways, she picked a box at random and opened it, releasing a cloud of dust. After a short sneezing fit, she began sorting through it. As she had suspected, there wasn't much to see. Most of the box's contents seemed to be old magazines. She had more luck with the second, which contained several old photo albums, probably owned by her grandmother. She decided that those would be worth looking into later on. The rest of the afternoon was much of the same. Open a box, toss its contents into the get rid of pile, rinse and repeat. She was grateful though. Whenever the monotonous work was punctuated by an interesting discovery, an old piece of jewellery here, a handful of photos there, it was dull work, but it was something to do. She pushed aside a box containing several shattered china plates. It was a shame, since they probably would have been worth something had they been in decent condition. She reached for the last box. Newspaper, old newspaper. She pulled out a piece and tried reading it. It was faded, but she could make out the date. June 27th, 1921. Really old newspaper. She pulled out piece after piece of it. Finally, she could see the object the newspaper was protecting from damage. A music box. She lifted it gingerly from its resting place. It was ornately decorated. Curious, Cam lifted the lid of the box. A tiny, intricately carved ballerina stood on a little pedestal, along with a tiny key, which presumably was meant to wind it. Cam knelt there for a while, simply staring at the music box. She gently picked up the key and inserted it into a small hole on the front of the box. She turned the key a few times, making sound of winding clockwork. She let go, and the ballerina began to twirl as the music began to play. It was a simple tune, the kind one would expect from a music box. Still, Cam was enchanted by it. She gazed at the spinning ballerina. The rest of the world seemed to slowly fade away. Her mind was concentrated on the music box. Cam was jarred back to reality by her mother's voice, calling her. She simply alerted Cam that she was heading to the supermarket. Cam gave her okay, which had wound down, back into the cardboard box in which it had been stored. Feeling a little groggy, she decided that she would probably take a break. She grabbed the photo albums from earlier and descended the stairs to the house proper. She sat down on the couch in the living room and began flipping through one of the albums. A few minutes later, she caught herself humming to the music box's song. Odd, since she wasn't normally the kind of person who was prone to humming, yet she didn't stop herself. She kept softly humming to the song herself. There was something soothing about it. About 20 minutes later, her mother came home, carrying a pair of paper brown bags in her arms. Cam stood up to assist her mother, but nearly fell right back down. Her head seemed to be spinning. She tried to shake it off. She tried to assist her mother with the groceries, but her help was denied. Her mother made a comment about how she looked pale and should probably head home. Cam made no objection as she slowly exited the house and made her way to the car. She briefly wondered if she was in any condition to drive. but was suddenly distracted. Music. That same music from before was playing, but louder. She decided that it must have been an ice cream truck and got into her car. As she drove home, the music continued to loop in her head. Over and over, it played. She tried turning on the radio so as to tune the music out, but to no avail. It was driving her up the wall. She practically ran into her house as soon as she reached it. She immediately turned on her TV, radio, computer, and everything else that had made any semblance of noise, anything to drown out the music. But it just kept playing in her head, louder and louder. Her senses grew numb. Her head felt as though it was going to explode, but the music kept playing and kept growing louder. Summoning all her willpower, Cam struggled into the kitchen. She pulled open a drawer and fumbled around inside for a moment, finally pulling out a carving knife. Exhausted, she fell to the floor. She gazed at the knife, breathing heavily. The music kept playing in her head. She just wanted it to stop, but it kept playing, over and over and over. The hammer on the wall. I'm a hammer, a tool used by humans to drive nails into wood. I would say I do my job well. I hang on the pegboard in my owner's garage, neatly displayed with the rest of my tools. My owner uses like a saw, axe and shovel. I hang on the pegboard waiting to be used. I am so happy when my owner pulls me off the pegboard for a project, or one of his kids comes into the garage and picks me up and pretends to be like their father. Sometimes when the kids take me off the wall, they smash my head into the driveway or the dirt, getting me filthy in the process. My owner always takes some time to clean me and the rest of the tools. Recently I've been hearing my owner's car speed out of the driveway. I wonder why he could ever be in such a hurry. I hear my owner breathing heavy, and his footsteps are heavier than usual. I'm also not hearing the kids. They must be at Grandpa's house. All of a sudden I'm covered in something warm. My owner must be driving a nail into the dirt as deep as he can. He keeps going. I'm very hot. First, he ran me under. Then he took a blowtorch to me. He must want me especially clean. I heard my owner grab a shovel, handsaw, and drive off in his car. He must be making a fence for someone. I hear my owner is back, but he didn't put saw and shovel back. Maybe he'll do it in the morning. The kids are back from Grandpa's. They are asking where Mummy is. I hear my owner say she is at her mother's. It's been a while since I've heard from my owner's wife. I heard one of the kids call his grandma, and she said that my owner's wife had not been there for a while. I hear the kids say that Daddy did something. I wonder what he did. Saw and shovel still aren't hanging up. I wonder if my owner forgot them at the place he went to one night. My owner grabs me from the pegboard and I hear running, screaming, and finally thumping. Then I feel that warm feeling again. My head is covered in something. My owner continues to walk in the doorway, I presume. Then I feel that sensation from before again. I feel the footsteps of my owner. He seems to be pacing back and forth. He seems distressed about something. He slams my head into the hard drywall. That didn't feel so good. I hear a loud bang, then I'm dropped to the floor. I wonder when my owner will pick me up. I feel a long passage of time. Now I hear a lot of footsteps around me. I am then placed into a bag. These people say something about my owner as they place me into a cardboard box. It's so dark. V-plug. He slid the wine glass across the table. The familiar sound of glass gently scraping on the wooden table, bringing him a sense of comfort and anticipation. He swirled the wine glass, watching as the beautiful ruby liquid whirled softly. He paused and watched the viscous liquid fall back into a smooth, neat line, little tendrils dripping down the sides of the glass. Take a deep breath in through both his nose and mouth. He savoured the distinctive smoking note of his favourite Malbec. Ready, he lifted the glass to his lips and awaited the sensations and tastes to dribble in with the wine. Everything went dark, and everything about him went away. He was alone in the dark. Startled and aggravated, he reached blindly ahead of him, until his fingers located the cold metal of the round button. He pressed it, fuming. He felt the pod he was laying in roll out, and the lid opened. Bright light scalded his eyes. He pulled himself upright and stepped out of the pod, indignant, furious. What on earth happened? I paid for 2 hours of simulation. That definitely wasn't. He trailed off. In front of him stood a gasping, panting woman who was hurriedly unplugging all of the other pods. "They're almost here. They broke through the barricade. They're past the soldiers, and they'll be here soon. Run! Get out of here! Hide!" He looked at her in disbelief, uncomprehending. She continued to unplug the rest of the pods as more and more occupants started getting up, looking as confused as he felt. "Get out! Find somewhere safe! Save yourselves, they're almost here." Despite his resistance, understanding sank in. Fear bloomed in his heart. No one would be left alive, he knew. They were thorough, and they were malicious, all about him. People began to panic. Voices raised in hysteria, bodies shoving and pushing to get to the door. Some were calling their loved ones. People were running, fleeing to perceived safety. He stood there, unmoving, taking it all in. Then slowly, he turned back to the pod. He picked up the plug that lay listlessly on the ground and pushed it back into the socket. He stepped back into the pod, lay down, and pressed the button. The lid closed over him, and the pod slid back into its chamber. He took another sniff of the red wine that appeared before him and took a sip.